Okay.
I did speak to this one.
You good? Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting for the Town Board of Thursday, January 28th, and ask our clerk, Christian Sampson, to call the roll.
Councilman Newton. Here. Councilman Trask. Here. Councilman Charles. Here. Councilman Deputy Supervisor Withers. Supervisor Supervisor.
Here, I'd like to ask Councilman Ullman to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Michael, I guess we'll start right off with the public hearing.
Yes, each year we submit a request for a project for the Community Development Office. Before we do so, we're required to hold a public hearing to solicit any public comment on as to what projects are suggested to be submitted. So we have advertised the public hearing for today. We have copies of the proof of service and publication, so we're allowed to, at this point, open up the public hearing for comment.
Okay. Anybody from the public who wants to speak on this public hearing? Come right up, state your name and address.
Robert Rowanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. As far as the grants go, I would like the town to consider getting grant money to widen Old Night Turnpike. I feel this road is very narrow, it's getting much busier, it does need to be widened. And I'd also like to suggest that maybe something could be done at the intersection of where Old Night Turnpike meets Saddle River Road, such as putting in a left turn lane there for cars that will be heading onto Old Night Turnpike. And I also would like to suggest that the town continue using money for sidewalks, especially on Herrick and Decatur. I've seen some of the newer construction there. Some of the houses had to put in sidewalks, others didn't. It's very piecemeal. That the town take a look at that and finish what needs to be done so there's continuous sidewalks on Herrick and Decatur Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rudy Dent, 8 Red Oak Lane. Where do we begin? When are we going to get a new police chief? I mean, really?
This is not public participation. This is just on the community development block grant, but you'll get a chance to come back over public
On the
participation.
community development. Okay.
But just to your answer, we do have some, we're going to be working on those interviews next week, so it'll be shortly, Rudy, okay?
Okay.
All
That's
right?
it.
Great. Okay, anybody else in the public would like to speak on the community development block grant program? Motion closed by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Logan Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
I have another question.
Yes.
Usually the last couple of years, before they did the grant development, they came to the board to discuss. I didn't recall anyone. with DPW somewhere.
They had their meeting of the committee, and with Ted as well, right, Ted?
Ed, in the past, usually they would come to the board to discuss which areas were more in need. I don't want to hold it up because I know there's a deadline to it, but usually, I mean, the last probably 4 years, you would come to the board. I think I actually went down to DPW. We met about which sidewalks are more important. This was just randomly picked.
Well, I don't think they ran. I think Ida is the sidewalk that you came up with. We worked on Blauvelt. We've done Old Night Turnpike. I want to do more work there, and some of the other ones that were mentioned here as well. But
In the future, if you could come a few weeks before it's due to the board, so that the board could give their input, and which sidewalks are of more importance than others.
And it's something to note, too, is the amount of funds that have been coming through this program have diminished tremendously. And it's something I think this year we should be looking at whether or not we want to have a consortium of our own, maybe with Spring Valley and with Kaiser, that would go work directly with the federal government, as some other communities have done, in order to increase the amount of money available for the community. So we definitely want to have that conversation. Itzy, but you can see that,
Last couple of years, it came through me and you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Although, do we vote, Chris, on that? Are we
You can close the
moving?
public hearing.
We did close, okay. Then on the main motion, moved by? Councilman Ullman, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Do we need to have a seeker on that, or no?
We do not, I do have forms that need to be signed by each of the board members before you leave today, so we can get this submitted before the end of the week.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. I made note of those comments, too, that people made. Yeah. Okay, the next item on the agenda is police matters.
Oh.
Captain Coakley.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Councilman Trest, everybody has had these type of police reports before. I just want to, this is what you get every time you come to a police commission, and it compares what we did from 1 year, from 1 month to the previous. Thank you. Okay? Just to give you a heads up. Even if you go through it, it's pretty more or less mirrors what we did in 2014. We do have a little more caseload in December 2015. The blotter event is the number of cases that our department receives in which an officer may respond to. So that's what that is. Also, the cases, our cases are probably done with offenses. That would be such as burglaries, people drinking in public, possession of drugs, etc. The next is the arrest, any type of offenses that have occurred in which the person was arrested. The next is accidents. As you can see, the same as, very similar to what happened last year, property damage, injuries. We did have a fatality out on 202, reference to a bicyclist hit, okay, just to let you know. Everything else as you're going through, false alarms, hang-ups, community service reports. Our community service reports, Mr. Tress, is in which we interact with the community in some aspects. For instance, we may attend a DARE graduation. We may attend a village board meeting. We may assist with a tour procession. Those type of things, we count that as community service reports. It's really document our interaction with community relations.
Obviously, you've done a lot more of it this year than the past year.
That is correct, and that number is constantly going up. Again, now we'll go down to the categories crimes. These are the types of offenses that are being reported to us. All right, and that's that, and there's really nothing out of the ordinary with these numbers. The uniform traffic tickets, these are traffic tickets that are issued by our police officers through the course of the month, and you can see there was a bit of a splurge up there, or a push-up, about 80 more tickets than it was last year. School bus violations is a high priority for our department, along with cell phones and texting. That all involves the public safety.
What about DWI?
We do have that. We are very high in that. I believe we've had over 160 DWI arrests this year. We're one of the top producers, one of the top enforcement agencies in the county for that.
Thank you.
And that larceny spike, was that from the break-in on vehicles that was
That is
taking?
correct, St. Lawrence.
And so
And I
you
believe
detectives have worked
The
hard.
detectives are looking at it. The gentleman, the people involved with that were apprehended 4 weeks prior to that, and they were out again, and I think we apprehended a couple more since then.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay? So that's really that for that. I have a couple of classes that my officers have to attend to. The first one is Michael Anton attending the RAD instructor class. Originally, we had approved this for some time in early January. We received notice from the course instructor that they did not have any room for him. So we're rescheduling him from March 28th to the 30th for that class. Again, Mr. Trust, some board members know, this RAD, it's a basic physical defense instructor course. It instructs women how to defend themselves when they're physically attacked. We have conducted classes in the St. Lawrence Center, up at the East Round School District, up at RCC, and up at in the village of Sloatsburg. It has been very highly accepted. People who have come are very welcome for us to have these classes. So I'm asking for that, a motion for that?
Captain, this is to attend the, in Long Island, this class, correct?
Correct.
And do these officers then become trainers so they can retrain our people, or these are
No,
individual?
These are
Okay.
just individual. The two officers I have trained now are Officer Olayan and Officer Sitars. I'm trying to lighten the load on Officer Olayan. As you know, he's our community police officer. He's also involved with the JTTF, so I'm trying to lessen his load, so I asked for Michael Anton to help with this instruction.
And sitars, obviously, it's good to have a
Yes,
police
but they
woman there,
recommend-
and...
They recommend to have a female with the when this
Yep.
instruction's going on.
Okay. Moved by? Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Okay. Let me go to, I'll leave the Tuxedo Police Department for Captain Wydell. I'll continue with just the training classes. The next one is our accident investigating class, for commercial vehicles. Lieutenant Emma recommended Sergeant Hal and Michael Anton, who are our accident investigators, to go around and be certified and be able to investigate accidents with commercial vehicles. As you're well aware, there was an incident in Chestnut Ridge in which a garbage truck turned over. The gentleman lost his arm from that. It turned out the vehicle was not properly inspected or equipped, and that triggered why we would like to have our officers attend this class.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Supervisor, this is,
Authorization for 2 police officers to attend an accident investigation training class, commercial vehicles in Orange County, New York. We had a meeting of the safety, pedestrian safety traffic committee the other day with the federal government and the state government and people from Albany and the governor's office right here in this room. And Deputy Supervisor Withers attended as well. And so was Officer Alayan, who has been assigned to that. They have just opened up a special training on this, on the governor's safety that is going to take place in Suffolk County, and it's going to be coming up shortly. So they had saved 2 spots for Ramapo Police Department to be in that,
Okay.
and they saved a spot, I think, for the Spring Valley Police Department.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to, if we should do that now, or if we should wait until we, but I think it was coming up in February, but we may have time at our next meeting to do that. But
I'll have to find
so
out
maybe, I don't know if it would be Blaine Howell and Elaine who you'd want to do that, but they have been the ones who've been attending these other
Correct.
meetings, so.
I'll see how that would fit.
So maybe we should just do a resolution to authorize 2 officers to attend the meeting. It's in Brentwood, Long Island, in Suffolk County, a date to be set by,
That's fine with
okay.
me.
Moved by Councilman Tress, second by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
My last training class is Officer John Yeoman to attend the A-RIDE. It's called Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement class. It is out, I'm a little late on this. It was on January 28th, the 27th and the 28th. The last board meeting had been canceled. I was going to present it. He has attended this class. Mr. Tress, the A-RIDE program has to do with the drug identification for law enforcement. As you're well aware, if you read the papers, the use of drugs, prescription drugs in particular, is growing by leaps and bounds. I believe in a matter of time, the state of New York will legalize the use of marijuana. So I'm trying to get the department ahead of the curve in reference to having our officers trained in identifying people operating on motor vehicles under the influence of drugs. So
So I'm
that's
just
the
curious, by
purpose.
such a training, do they give samples to officers?
No.
It's 1 to 10.
So that's it. So
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, I believe we have 2 disciplinary matters that are police-related to discuss in executive session. I think on the general agenda, there's probably 1 item, which is a contract negotiation, which should be an executive session. So the board could decide to do that at this point, or whenever.
What about the Tuxedo Police Department? Is that an executive session item?
No.
No?
we have one other item. You didn't.
They right.
Yeah, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Before we go,
The Tuxedo, I see on your agenda Tuxedo Police Department. Is-
Captain Wydell will speak about that.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to bring to the board's attention, if you're not already aware of it, the fact that the Town of Tuxedo Police Department does not provide police services on the midnight shift right now, with the exception of a dispatcher. This came to a head back on January 15th on a midnight shift when our agency received a call for an accident on Sterling Mine Road up in Sloatsburg. We responded. It was determined that that accident was in fact in the Town of Tuxedo. Natural progression is we called Tuxedo and asked them to send their units to take care of the accident, and we learned at that point that they don't have a police service overnight. New York State Police out of Monroe are covering for the Town of Tuxedo at night. So we addressed the accident that night. We waited for the state police, which took a bit of time for them to get there. I verified with Tuxedo this is what, in fact, what is occurring. Just before today's meeting, I called up there and spoke with their commander as well to make sure that nothing's changed, excuse me, that has not changed. So the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because we've directed our officers that absent a request for an emergency assistance by the state police on a midnight shift in Tuxedo, we have no legal authority to be going up there and handling police calls, and our officers will not be permitted to go up there should we receive a call. We're simply redirecting that call back to the state police.
So if the state police needed our assistance, that would be a different thing. It would be kind of a mutual aid. But as a responding unit, it's outside of our jurisdiction. So that's from midnight to 8 in the morning?
From 11 a.m., excuse me, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Is the time there's no coverage in the Town of Tuxedo, that entire area.
That's a big part of that commute time that comes through there as well. You get a lot of accidents on 17.
Our officers will assist in mutual aid if doesn't want to wait. The reporting agency will be the state police, but our officers aren't being told not to. I mean, they will assist
we-
them, right? Or-
Yes,
I'm a
Deputy
little-
Supervisor.
I'm not clear on that.
Okay, so you're absolutely correct. If we receive a request for assistance, then we're in a good position to respond outside of our legal jurisdiction on the mutual aid. But absent the request from the state police, in other words, if we get a cold call from somebody in Tuxedo, that call is going to be referred to the state police. That's the procedure that's in effect now with the Town of Tuxedo and the agreement that they made with the state police. So yes, we will assist. And,
Wh-
Not our problems. The only concern that I have is if something is, we get the call because they think it's in our area, we get there, it's a little bit over the border, I want to make sure that our officers aren't going to leave the scene because it's not our territory. Obviously, we should redirect the call, but once we're there, does that become a liability issue?
Absolutely, and that's what happened with this accident. The officers did stay, they did get the wheels in motion to get the accident cleared. They did everything they would normally do if it was in our jurisdiction, and they waited for the state police to arrive on the scene. But it is important that this information be delivered to the board so you're aware of it.
Is there a way to build that?
Well, it's a unique situation near us, but throughout the state, it's not that unique. There are many small municipalities that have police departments, but they're only there certain hours during the day. So this is unique
Are
for
we
us
legally-
because...
Are we legally allowed to build them if
No.
we're?
No. The state law is that if a police department is either disbands or is not out on the road, then the state police take over.
No, but if we go to a scene because we got cold and it was
But-
wrong, and we took care of it, can't we bill the town and say,
No.
look, we were forced to, we now
No,
leave the scene?
no, but the point, I think the point that the captain's making is that we cannot be called out directly to go there. The people in Tuxedo shouldn't be called out. They shouldn't, we would go and help and respond if the state police asked us to come there. Otherwise, we don't have the authority, to do that. Now, obviously, in the case you just brought up, our officers wouldn't leave the scene, and so they waited for the state police to be there. But that can't be the norm. The norm can't be that we go up and babysit the scene. Yep. Because this is something that is self-imposed by the supervisor and the town board of Tuxedo.
No, I understand.
It's not some hardship. This is self-imposed hardship onto the residents of Tuxedo, and,
What I'm going with the supervisors, and I think what we should do as a governing board, and for you through some of our lobbyists up in Albany, is that we should maybe try to get the state to have legislation where it actually protects the town of Arapahoe, and if we do, called out something, because we are in a unique situation, we're ordering a town that's now not covering midnight to 8 and police coverage.
When you say to protect, what do you mean by protect?
Liability.
Liability issue?
Liability.
Well, this happens in our own town. I mean, the Village of Suffern sometimes doesn't have coverage at night, and we respond sometimes on an 8-hour shift, multiple times to Suffern. I know a situation in Suffern where there was an accident one night in Suffern. Our entire crime vehicle was there, working that scene, working the traffic, working doing all of the detailed reporting on the actual vehicle investigation on the site. And at the same time, there was then a call to Suffern to have there was a domestic violence in Bon Air. There was nobody on duty in Suffern.
No.
And
I'll disagree with that. I mean, my wife is a sergeant there, and they have a minimum mandate of two people per squad.
this was on a Sunday, and
And they always have to, they might have been tied up on other calls and needed assistance, but they always have two people on.
No, I'm not saying they don't have people working. I'm saying that they didn't have enough coverage in Suffern, and we would back up these calls, and we're trying. We can get a list. I think we've been working on a list, Captain Coakley, on what our cost, what we thought our cost would be to Suffern. We've never charged Suffern for that, but so I was just following up on your point, Pat, of seeing if there's some type of legislation that. Where we would be allowed to charge
Was
if those
Suffern
things.
short, or they're just patrolling Earmark for us?
I have two questions. One is, how much information to the residents of Tuxedo has been disseminated so they know that in the event they have a situation? Do they know where to call? Do they even understand that? And I know that I could be passing through, let's say I'm driving through Tuxedo, and I have an accident. When the call goes to the dispatcher, what would the dispatcher do? Would it come to the town of Round Call? Would it go directly to the state police? How did that whole thing happen? How did that call happen? How did that?
It will still go to the Tuxedo Police Department dispatcher, because the dispatcher is still staying on there, so the dispatcher will then dispatch directly to state police.
Right, what happened, if I could, Mr. Charles, what happened that night was the call came into our agency through radio headquarters because the caller thought it was in our jurisdiction. Had they called the town of Tuxedo Police, Tuxedo would have answered the call because they do have a dispatcher, and they would have called the state police, and the town of Rampo wouldn't have known anything about it, most likely. But because it came to us, we did in fact respond for the concern of public safety and to make sure that nobody was in danger. It's only later that we learned it's not our area, and then we learned that there's no police coverage.
Did that come through 44 Control?
Came through radio headquarters, that's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
So, okay?
Is there a mechanism, could there be a mechanism in place, the fact that they don't have, Tuxedo does not have coverage the midnight shift, that the town of Rampo, if they would go there, they should be reimbursed for that?
There's no provision in the law that allows that.
I made a note to ask our lobbyists to see if we could do that, But remember, this is a decision by the town board in Tuxedo that they feel they don't need to be covering their residents with police. I mean, I would think a lot of break-ins happen in the midnight or 11 to 7, and there'd probably be a greater propensity to do it at that time period than other time periods if there's no police out on the streets.
I agree with you, Supervisor. It's a disgrace when I can see maybe, we're a town and they're a town. I can see villages, small villages consolidating and merging with police. But, I believe the obligation of the town is governing board, and it's a disgrace what they did up there to lack the public safety and control the people when they're sleeping at night, the most vulnerable, especially when people are sometimes traveling through their town. There are town residents that, they might need some people, they might need, God forbid, some police assistance or ambulances and stuff like that to get them in an expeditious manner.
It does kind of go counter to the fact that they have a huge subdivision of 1,500 homes going in Tuxedo. And that construction will be going on through the day, but at nighttime, they'll have millions of dollars worth of equipment on site, and I would imagine that they should be having more police protection at night and patrols. What I'm concerned about, because I do know that the Sloatsburg Ambulance Corps does cover Tuxedo, and quite regularly. I know that Tuxedo has an occasion to even come into Sloatsburg if they were short a rig, but I think the balance of it goes the other direction. So in that situation, our ambulance corps will be showing up to a scene probably before the state police get there, because the state police are thinner and more stretched out. So I think it's something we should be viewing to see what happens on a ambulance call that's going from the Sloatsburg ambulance, from our jurisdiction, into Tuxedo. We do this for mutual aid. There was a time a few years ago where we were almost covering entirely Stony Point because they were calling us out and they didn't have a good ambulance system going. So I don't want the Sloatsburg Ambulance Corps to be at risk some way of coming to a scene, an accident where there could be people that could be intoxicated, hurt, different groups, different people, and not have any police presence. Because usually, in most cases, our police are there before the ambulance or at the same time. So I think we should view that, and I'm going to write a letter to the supervisor in Tuxedo, and on behalf of the whole board, saying that we do not agree with their policy. We don't think it's a cost savings, and we're concerned about our residents, their residents, people traveling through the area, and we certainly want an answer on the ambulance corps side. So,
Thank you very much.
all right. So we did those resolutions, all three of those, the statistics. What we should do, I think, is rather than go into executive session, I know people want to speak. I think Rudy may want to speak in the public participation. So why don't we go through any of the items of the town board that don't have executive session, and then we'll go to executive session, and then we'll come back out, and if we take any votes, that will be in the public session. All right? So, Michael, we'll go right to the authorization on the guardrail.
Did you want to approve the minutes from January 21st?
Yes, let's do that. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Now, item number 3, our Town Attorney, Michael Klein.
Thank you. The first resolution seeks authorization of the town board to commence an action against a driver who damaged a guardrail. We've sought payment without resorting to litigation, but it doesn't appear that's forthcoming, so we're asking permission to sue the driver, who will then engage their insurance company to hopefully pay us for the damages that we incurred.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. It's approximately $3,999.
That's correct. The next resolution authorizes the payment to a homeowner of $625. A dead tree fell from town property and damaged a fence. Our employees removed the tree, and the homeowner is seeking reimbursement for the cost of the repair of the fence.
Okay.
We have an estimate.
Moved by Councilwoman Charles.
Notice the town before that.
It's got to be moved and seconded before people speak. All right, seconded by Councilman Tress. Yes, Councilman Tress.
Question, we have an estimate.
We do. We do. We have an estimate provided by the landowner.
I have a question. Doesn't the town need to be notified before, so that give us time to fix the problem before we have to pay for it, such as a pothole? If you get a flat tire in a pothole, you don't have to pay it unless there's no.
The allegation is that the fact that the dead tree was there was reported to the town
Does
previously.
he have proof that it was reported? I know it's only $600. I just saw bringing all my flat tires that I had from potholes.
They provided a letter that was sent previously indicating the problems with the trees in the area.
You have that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
We have one tax certiorari matter for settlement. This is a partial exemption for property at 45 Iola Road. It's Rockland Hebrew Educational Center, Inc. The exempt portion of the property is for a rabbi's residence.
And this went through the Supreme Court, correct? Is this a settlement on this, is a settlement through?
This is a settlement of a matter which is pending before Judge Garvey in the Supreme Court.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next resolution amends a resolution previously adopted by the board involving maintenance of the HVA system at Provident Bank Park. The prior resolution omitted equipment that's necessary that the town has to purchase for the work to be done.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
And E on the agenda is a discussion item, which should be an executive session.
All right. Very good. Next is the amendment for the 2016 budget transfer of funds for the police department, installation of vehicle letters, critical response vehicles. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. That was a request for authorization to utilize federal forfeiture money in the amount of $1,200 for the installation of the vehicle letters. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Tony had to be at the soil and erosion conference, so we will table this discussion.
I'm pretty familiar with this area. I have a petition from the neighbors about no parking signs there, and I've been there numerous times, so
This is on the Bluefield, on the, yeah, so,
I think we put it on the left side. If you're coming from Muncie.
okay, so you want to make a recommendation that we have our police department look to do the study, to put it on the left side?
I drive through it every single day. I don't think we need anyone to look. I think we could put no parking signs right away. I have a petition from every single neighbor that lives in front of this house requesting it. All unanimous. I spoke with them many, many times.
So the Bluefield Garden?
It's a Bluefield on the
It's to
left
put,
side.
right now, there's no parking on each side, so the idea would be to
There's
put...
no- there's
there-
no
I'm-
signs at all.
There's no signs, so I'm saying there are no parking signs on either
It's on
side.
the left side. If you're coming if you're coming from Union, it's on the right side. If you're coming up from Union, the right side of Bluefield, and then as it turns into Whitman.
Council, do we need to send this to the police department for review before we take this action? That's all I'm asking you. We can make that recommendation and do that, but I mean, I know we have a procedure, and I just didn't want to have,
There's one car parked there every single one. Every
Well,
single bus.
may I suggest if we approve it subject to...
The police department,
To the police department...
and our planners.
Approving that, if there's an issue, then we can bring it back at the next meeting.
I'm
Assuming
fine
that
with
the police
that.
department and Mr. Sharon have no objection to it, then why don't we
Okay, and
make that the
I
condition?
think we have to make it a little bit more, not just no
And-
parking, no standing, no stopping, no parking, all three of them. It's horrible. There's one minivan that parks there every single morning, holds up the
Just
whole
put no
street.
standing. Just put no standing.
No sta- yeah, like the airport, no
No
standing.
standing covers everything, is that correct?
well, no, we'll have no parking on that left side, right? And then anything close to the curb, the corner, we can no parking from here to the corner.
I think what Mr. Omen is suggesting is he doesn't even want cars stopping to drop or pick people off.
It's very bad. On one side of the street, it's either going to the driveway or park on the other side of the street.
So you want no stopping, standing, or parking, is what you're suggesting?
Yep, like the airport.
Okay,
You have
so-
an announcement and say, hi, this is Chris St. Lawrence, no stopping, the white zone is for loading and unloading, no
Mr. Ullman, but your petition requests no parking or no standing?
no parking.
No parking, because that may be a problem, if you have little kids.
Why don't we pass the resolution this way? Why don't we put it as no parking, and unless there are other recommendations of no standing, okay. All right, a motion to have no parking on Bluefield Gardens on the,
Which side?
so the left side, you're talking about coming from Union, the
Union's
left,
on the right side. If you come from Union, it's the right side.
so the right side, so the north side of Bluefield.
You don't have to go all the way up Bluefield, it's only to Whitman. Up and top is not a problem, it's only to the turn, and Whitman, up to the school.
What's the name of the street?
Bluefield and Whitman. Bluefield Drive and Whitman.
And then Whitman, you would be saying on the west side of
Same
Whitman.
Continues up.
Yeah, but it
identify by
takes an
direction.
L. So
Not
Whitman,
only
you'd be
from-
saying on the west side where the school is.
After the school, from Bluefield until the school, on Whitman, from Whitman till the school. You try driving there at 9:30.
Okay, with it?
8:30, sorry. 8:30.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. No, that's, I spoke with Tony. That's not the way we do it. Next is the approval of one fire hydrant, Herrick Woods. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Approval of one fire hydrant on Ellis Parkway and Vincent. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Reappointment of the community development members. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Acceptance of the resignation of a Board of Assessment Review member. I'll send a letter thanking Dominic for his service, and he has sent in his letter of resignation to be on the Board of Assessment Review. He's a member that, from the Chestnut Ridge area, and, yeah. Well, we have, no, that's the next person.
New guy,
who's
sorry,
very-
super
So
cool.
first we take the resignation, moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. The next is the appointment of Lloyd Tash, who also from Chestnut Ridge, onto the Assessment Review Board, and you're right, he's a very...
Better be careful.
He's a very, he actually, I believe, is the assessor for the city of White Plains. So he is very knowledgeable in the field of assessment. He'll be a great addition to the Assessment Review Board. And just want to remind all homeowners that if you think that your house is overassessed, you can come into our offices here at our assessing offices. They will help you look for comparables on your size of your house, size of your unit, location, and will help you through the process of trying to have your assessment reduced. And then this would be a member that would be on that board. Okay, moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. We have been working on both the Crow House and Mowbray Clark. I think this appointment for the Crow House Advisory Committee should be Crow House Michael / Mowbray Clark. They're adjacent to each other. And I guess the Laco property is there as well, but I think these are the two structures that...
That's correct.
And we have our staff working on it, but this is to have a committee, and the committee would be Carolyn Hanna, Claire Sheridan, Carrie Potter, Samuel Tress, and myself. And moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. And our goal is to be able to have the Crow House open to the public for a showing this spring. And if not, at least the River House, which is the name of the house as you come in, the first house. So it's pretty exciting, and we'll be able to have an art show there and some history and be able to really get the public involved.
And-
I'll let you know when they're going to have a meeting, and the first meeting, when they call it, we'll probably have Chuck Stead and Tom Sullivan doing a report on the work that they're doing presently on River House. No.
So the name of the committee is now the
Crow House / Mowbray Clark Advisory Committee.
Myself.
Okay.
These are public participation.
You didn't have any other items, did you, Council? No?
No,
Oh.
just the executive session.
Now we have, before we go into executive session, we'll have public participation. Rudy, did you want to, are you good, or did you get your answer, or do you want, you're certainly welcome to come up and speak.
Stand up if you don't say it.
In reference to what we just discussed in regard to going to another municipality that has chosen to make a substantial saving by eliminating an entire shift, that's a big savings. But whenever a call comes in to respond to such an area, as it should go through their dispatcher. And once it does, then it is their responsibility, their liability, and their burden to pay for the services of our utilities that are employed at that scene at that time, period. They're still saving a substantial amount of money, but they're liable for the money we spend with our police forces on the scene? It's a simple question. All it needs is some backing. I've seen where we're using now money where investigations, federal ongoing investigations against the town have continued, and we're using money other than indemnification insurance, which I had stated previously. If an indemnification insurance carrier finds that the person charged is charged with something that is outside of their fiduciary obligations, they will step away from you, and now you have to pay from other sources. I'm concerned about what monies are being used to pay for defenses against the federal inquiries that I've seen going on in regards to our town. To make it short, I mean, the general apathetic mindset in Ramapo now is that as horrific as it has become here, everybody knows that things are not going to go back to the way they were. I say that they can. And all it needs, all this town needs, is the police free to police with liberty and justice for all, not some. Right now, it's common knowledge that there is a privileged section in Ramapo that gets special protection, special privilege, and woe to anyone who stands up to that particular section, because they won't get fair representation. That's been demonstrated over and over again. All we need is for our police and our code enforcers to be able to enforce the codes and enforce the law with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Dent. Mr. Romanowski.
Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. I had spoken to you about this previously on the radio, but I brought the supporting documentation today. What I have here is the Rockland County Solid Waste Management Authority, second quarter 2015 recycling tons and rebates, and Rockland County Solid Waste Management Authority, third quarter 2015 recycling tons and rebates. And as I spoke to you before, I'm going to give you these copies when I'm done here. What stands out here is with the Village of New Square, for the period from April through September, they have received nothing for commingling recyclables. Is that because the Village of New Square is not recycling the commingled recyclables, such as bottles, cans, and the like? I thought that recycling was required in Rockland County, and if it's required, why is it not being done? Supervisor St. Lawrence, you're the chairman of the Solid Waste Management Authority, so I think this is something that you should be aware of. I'm sure you get these sheets and you looked at them, and you see that there's no recycling going on in New Square. And also, I've driven into New Square a few times to try to look around to see if I've seen any recycling containers, and so far, I have not seen any. So I'd like to give you these papers. I don't want an answer right now. I know you probably have to look into and review this. So maybe in a couple of weeks, I'll speak to you on the radio and ask you what you found about this. So at this time, I'd like to take these two sheets and have them be part of the record. I want to give them now to the town clerk.
Okay.
So that they can, Mr. Sampson. And I ask that the town clerk give them to the supervisor for his review so that he can answer the question at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Anyone else in the public participation? Motion to close the public participation by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Motion to go into executive session for contracts and for personnel. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We're going to go into executive session. If there are any votes that will be taken after the executive session, we will do that in the open period. Thank you.
I think Linda Condon.
You have to check whatever on mine. I didn't check anything. I just signed it. Okay. Oh. Motion to come out of executive session? Jack, are you up? Okay, motion to come out of executive session by Deputy Supervisor Withers, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. So we are out of our executive session, and we have a couple items, resolutions to vote on. And one will be the contract for MT2 for $166,000 for the sole source for the removal of lead at the police shooting range on top of the landfill.
Subject to the town attorney's approval.
Subject to the purchasing and town attorney's approval on that. Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. The second resolution is a resolution for reimbursement for Sergeant Corbett for a course that goes toward his degree in criminal justice. Moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Withers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. The next resolution is a resolution to reimburse Officer Thomas Cairo for his Homeland Security course going toward his Homeland Security degree. Moved by Councilwoman Charles, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. And the fourth resolution, I'll recognize our town attorney.
Yes, we've discussed over the last few meetings, as well as today in executive session, an issue involving a potential separation of service from one of our police officers. This resolution would authorize that separation unless that officer is physically able to return to work and is willing to do so within the next 30 days.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Charles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay. A motion to adjourn? Oh, yes.
I believe the board is going to be setting a special meeting for next Tuesday.
That's right, 10 o'clock.
The items I think that are intended to be discussed are personnel matters, so it will be in an executive session, but I think the board should schedule that special meeting at this time for Tuesday.
Moved by Councilman Tress, second by Councilman Ullman, setting next Tuesday, 10 o'clock as a special board date, meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. And I want to remind everybody out there that February 20th is the New York Police Department hockey team against the United States Marine Corps National Hockey Team. That is on Saturday, February 20th. The game starts at 5 p.m. There will be honor guards there from the New York Police Department, our Ramapo Police, from the Marine Corps as well. We may even have a flyover, but it will start at 5 o'clock, and the proceeds will be going to charities that are designated by the Marine Corps and by the Police Department. So we want to invite everybody to come out to that. That's February 20th. And this Saturday, there's a game there, and it is a game between the number 3 and number 5 teams in Section 1 hockey. It's Clarkstown against North Rockland. That'll be Saturday evening, and that game starts at 5 o'clock as well. And then there will be a game on Tuesday, which will be Pearl River against Hen Hud at the hockey rink as well. And this weekend coming up on February 6th is the Golden Gloves hockey at the St. Lawrence Center. Boxing, did I say hockey everywhere? Well, in hockey, boxing matches break out, right? So it's Golden Glove boxing at the St. Lawrence Center on February 6th. So come on out and enjoy that.
Thank you, friend.
Okay. All right. With that, I'll have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilman Ullman, second by Councilman Tress. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We're adjourned.